Alright, so let's see what Blizzard is doing with Mr. Pandaria here. So they posted this on their website 10 hours ago. There's gonna be some weekend raid testing. They're testing Shaw of Fear in terms of End of Spring, so I guess the whole raid, right? And Heart of Fear. So they're testing both raids. I think they've only tested Mokshan Vault so far. I did not play the beta at all, so I don't exactly know what's happening there, but I think they tested Mokshan Vaults twice. Now they're testing Terrace and also Heart of Fear. I think they're doing it twice as well, so this is like the first test gonna be from Friday, June 13th to Monday, June 16th. There you go. Yeah, level 90 template characters, 463 eye level gear, yada yada yada. Alright, moving on. So, Celestial Dungeons. What is a Celestial Dungeon? In short, it's like Twilight Dungeons from Cattle. So basically, in MOP, what's gonna happen is there won't be LFR. There's gonna be these Celestial Dungeons, which award you LFR gear, and also currency to buy LFR items that you have not gotten in Celestials. And the word LFR is gonna be removed. They're gonna be called Celestial. So if an item has Celestial on it, that means it's like from this. Alright, let's read through this really fast. So Celestial Dungeons can only be entered by using the automated group finder tool, and they require a minimum item level of 435 to queue. Isn't that kind of low? I would have expected it to be higher, to be able to queue for these dungeons, like higher than heroic. But yeah, it's like if you can't queue heroic, you can queue Celestial right away. So I guess there's not gonna be much of a reason to do heroic dungeons when these are available, because they just give better gear. That's pretty nice. I think heroic dungeons in MOP are terrible. I think they're boring. They offer no challenge whatsoever. I don't want to do them. You know, it's like I'm glad that there's these things that are gonna be more challenging and give better rewards, because heroic dungeons are they're only like really relevant. I guess in the first few weeks, and then you don't really do them anymore. Kind of similar to Rat. You will only do them for Valor. But you can get your Valor from Celestial Dungeons, from Challenge Modes. There's apparently some deities for them, so... Yeah, you don't have to do Heroics, basically. Only in the beginning. That's kind of cool. Alright. Upon entering a Celestial Dungeon, players will be greeted by the August Celestials. Speaking with the Celestial allows the player to ask for their assistance, granting the player unique powers based on the Celestial they interacted with. It's just like the Twilight Dungeons, right, guys? You have like 4 buffs, you pick one, that's it. Hopefully, they're gonna be more interesting buffs than they are in Twilight, because one of them is like if you move, you lose a big damage buff, and it makes you like you want to stand in mechanics and punishes you for doing mechanics. It's kind of annoying. I hope they can think of a different buff that is not gonna be that punishing if you just play the game, right? Like, well, we'll see what happens. Each boss in Celestial Dungeons will drop 2x of a new currency, the August Stone Fragment, per player. Players have defeated all other bosses in the dungeon, the final boss of each dungeon will drop an extra 3 August Stone Fragments. Nice. Running your first Celestial Dungeon of the day will grant you an additional 4 fragments. So it's kind of like an incentive, I guess, to do one of these a day. Every Celestial Dungeon after the first one of the day will grant you an additional 2 fragments. So it's 2 less than the first one. There is also a rotating daily quest for Celestial Dungeons that can be picked up from the Challenger Song or Challenger Wooly in the Vale of Eternal Blossoms for an additional 3 fragments. So the daily quest gives you 3 more fragments. That's pretty cool. The daily quest will never be the same Celestial Dungeon 2 days in a row, and it will never be the same dungeon as the Challenge Mode daily quest. So that's kind of cool. The cap of how many August Stone Fragments a character can hold will be low at first, but will increase with the release of each raid tier. So there's going to be a cap and then it goes up. The August Stone Fragments currency can be used to purchase items from the new NPC Avatar of the August Celestials in the Shrine of the Two Moons and Shrine of the Seven Stars. I think this one is the Alliance and this one's Horde. Maybe. The original Raid Finder items have been rebelled relabeled, sorry, as celestial items. Yeah, it's just they're called celestial now. Celestial dungeons also bring with them new achievements to earn. Celestial dungeons add various mechanics from bosses from the current raid tier to the dungeon encounters. Players can earn progress towards their legendary questline with the chance of gaining sigils of power and sigils of wisdom drops from end bosses in celestial dungeons while on the associated quests. So can you like farm all of those in 1 week? I wonder. It was like the way it worked before is it was kind of like a lockout, right? You would do the raid and you would get maybe one or two and then you gotta wait a week. So I wonder if you could like power farm these. I'm not sure what the reward is for getting those sigils in the first place. Maybe it's just to progress the quest line and then you gotta wait for patch 5.1 or 5.2. The whole legendary thing in MOP is like time gated, right? So yeah. Players can earn progress towards their legendary quest line by defeating the Shah of Doubt and obtaining the Chimera of Doubt while on the associated quest. Okay. To somewhat mimic how Raid Finder content was originally released, Celestial Dungeons will become available 2 weeks after the release of Mokushan Vaults. From there, 2 weeks after each raider's release, the Celestial Dungeon drops and the items on the avatar of the August Celestials will update their tables to contain items from their trade. Upon first release, items able to be purchased include. So this is 2 weeks after the raid is out. All Celestial items from Mokshan Vaults. Satchel of Celestial Chance containing a handful of lesser charms of good fortune and a chance at unreleased mounts. What? From the original Mists of Pandaria expansion. Wait, that's really cool. Unreleased mounts. I don't know what these mounts are. Like, it must have been mounts that they were gonna add and they never did them. So it's like actually brand new shit to collect. I like that. That's kind of hype. Dude, they should do this. They should make it that if you get these mounts in MOP, you also get them in retail. That would get a lot of people from retail to try out MOP just to get these mounts, and then maybe they like it and keep playing it. You know, cross version interaction like they're doing, you know, with SOD and MOP with the 85 boost. They could do that with that mounts. I'm just saying. Commendations of servers for justice points. Is that like an item you click and you get justice points? I don't know. Valor points. Okay, so you can buy Valor points. You can buy justice points. You can get a bag that has the lesser charms of good fortune, which, by the way, I think those are needed for the bonus rolls. And then you also have these unreleased mounts from the original MOP expansion. Very nice. Once Heart of Fear releases, no new items will be added to the vendor or Celestial Dungeons until 2 weeks after that raid has been released. Upon 2 weeks elapsing, items able to be purchased include Celestial Tier 14 chest tokens, Celestial Tier 14 leg tokens. So you can get 2 sets, basically a month after Mokshan Vaults comes out if you're never raiding and only doing these. Because these come out 2 weeks after Mokshan Vaults, which is then when Heart of Fear releases. But then the Heart of Fear ones come out 2 weeks after. So it's basically like plus 2 weeks from when the raids are out. And it seems like the raids are going to be time gated. So you have Mokshan Vaults on launch. 2 weeks later is Heart of Fear. 2 weeks later is Terrace of Endless Spring. I really like that. I think if all the raids were out right away, that's too much to do. Too much progression. It's going to be overwhelming. It's like 16 bosses. And I hated that about Cataclysm, by the way. It was like there was too many bosses all of a sudden. And we felt pressured when we're progressing. That we're so behind because we had so many other bosses that we still had to kill that week. I think we ended up not even killing normal mode bosses because we had no more time. So the fact that they're time gating the raids by just 2 weeks gives you time to progress that raid, get the hang of the mechanics, and then you don't feel a lot of pressure when Heart of Fear comes out. It's amazing. I think that's how it was back in the day, right? I'm pretty sure not all these raids were out right away. So they're just basically copying the way it was. So yeah, as you can see, you can buy the Heart of Fear gear and it starts dropping 2 weeks after Heart of Fear comes out with these Celestials. So like a month after Mokshan Vaults. Once the Terrace of Endless Springs releases, no new items will be added, blah blah, it's the same thing. But now you can buy the shoulder token, helmet token, and hand token, so you have all 5 pieces. All celestial items from Terrace of Endless Spring. When the celestial dungeons and vendor are updated for Terrace of Endless Spring, players may purchase a bind on account satchel of stone fragments. This costs 10 August stone fragments, and when used, it is consumed and grants the holder 10 August stone fragments. This will allow players to complete celestial dungeons on one character while farming for another, or using that character to purchase transmog items for your account that your other cannot purchase from the vendor. This will also allow players to transfer August stone fragments to their alts, who can then open them for the currency and spend them on lesser charms of good fortune. This is so good. Nice. Giving players a way to get their alts this currency. So yeah, it's like basically you have like an alt. You can do dungeons on that alt, or you can do them on your stronger character, then send the stuff to that alt. And then with that alt you could buy the transmog items, or you can just buy the bags, and then you can get your weekly charms of good fortune for your bonus rolls. Very nice. So let's say like the queues are slow on your DPS, but you have a tank character. You can farm them on your tank, mail them to your DPS, and then buy everything you need. So it's kind of nice. But this is not available until a month and a half from Mokshan Vaults coming out. Right? Because it's 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Yeah. 8 weeks after. 6 weeks after, my bad. I think it's 6 weeks. Because Mokshan Vaults is out. 2 weeks later, Celestial Dungeons. And also Heart of Fear. 2 weeks later is Heart of Fear, Celestial Dungeons, and Terrace. And then 2 weeks, 6 weeks after, exactly. Alright. As posted elsewhere, we have lowered the number of lesser charms of good fortune required for 3 elder charms of good fortune to 50 from 90. Okay, so this right here, in the end of Mists of Pandaria, you needed 50. But on the beginning it was 90, so they're just giving us the post-nerf values, kind of nice. You gotta like farm these charms, and then you give them to an NPC, and he gives you 3 bonus rolls. So yeah, that's just like twice as fast now. Here we go, guys. Class updates. Uh-oh. Wee woo, wee woo. Alerta. Your class choice, based on FOMO, might be changed. Okay. Let's see what we have here. As we have been reviewing the class design in the original Mists of Pandaria, we recognize that classes change, sometimes substantially, over the course of the expansion from phase to phase. For our classic expansions, we start with the class design of the final patch of the original expansion. And for Mists of Pandaria Classic, that is patch 5.48. Unfortunately, classes in 5.48 were not designed with each phase's content, such as the first rater, in mind. And with no changes to classes, this would leave some in an odd state in each phase. To address this, we have gone class by class, spec by spec, and made changes. Changes! No! No! Ah! I cannot contain the change! Ah! Brace yourselves, guys. Brace yourselves. Hold on to your desks. We're about to witness change. Okay. Many of these changes are simply reverting updates to classes that were made throughout the original Mists of Pandaria. In some cases, we also brought forward fixes to classes that were not made until Warlords of Draenor expansion pre-patch. Whoa. We have indicated the source of each adjustment at the end of each class change, noted below. Some classes have also received an early buff, despite being expected to scale well as the Mists of Pandaria Classic expansions progresses. Our intent here is to give certain specs more power to balance them early in the expansion, but we already plan to revert many of the buffs made to these specs as the expansion progresses, and these specs naturally scale back to their expected levels. So yeah, what they're basically saying here is they're not gonna do like Wrath of the Lich King, where they buff a spec because it was weak in Ulduar, but then it becomes OP in ICC, and then they don't revert the buff. Feral Druids. Yep. So, That's good that they are already saying, yo, don't get too excited about these changes. You will get them reverted because you're not going to need these buffs later on. We're only giving you these buffs now because you need these buffs now. Because you were basically like this at the beginning of MOP, and then we did this. But now you're like this at the beginning of MOP when you were like this. Now we're doing this. That's it, right? Kind of nice. Kind of nice. I like it. We have also made changes to the functionality of certain abilities, glyphs, and talents for specific specs within a class. To be clear, this means that if other specs within a class have also have access to the same abilities, glyphs, or talents, they will only function in a changed manner for the spec specified. Specifically regarding PvP, all the following changes will have no impact on instance PvP. These class changes, including changes to masteries and glyphs, will revert back to their 5.48 functionality when characters enter PvP instances such as arenas and battlegrounds. Massive W, guys. Massive W. So they're trying to like not mess with PvP and not like have these PvE changes impact PvP in a negative way, like we've seen in Season of Discovery. So that's really, really good. Thank you. I don't even PvP that much, but I appreciate the fact that they're not trying to like step over PvP here and be like, hey, now the whole thing is shifted and now this is going to be OP when it wasn't, or something. Like, I don't know. They're trying to not, you know, mess with that stuff, right? Yeah, word PvP buffs are still there, but word PvP in Mob Classic is not really going to be a thing because most of our servers are 100% Horde or Alliance, so yeah. Finally, although we feel all classes will benefit from these changes throughout the expansion, we will continue to monitor the classes and update them further if necessary. We are particularly eager to see how many perform in the beta, and most importantly, we are very much looking forward to your feedback. Please leave any feedback in the feedback. Okay, cool. Let's start with Druid. Balance. Moonkin forms increase to nature and arcane damage has been raised to 20% from 10%. New. So this is like not a revert. This is like just a flat out buff to Boomy. Amazing. Boomy needs buffs, bro. Maybe now someone will play it. Awesome. Another balance change. Shooting stars will no longer split its chance to activate across multiple targets. 5.4 revert. So this was in 5.0. We're getting the original mob version of that. Nice. I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know what shooting stars is, but I think that's a buff. So cool. W balance roots. Feral. Ferals once again learn nature swiftness, but it cannot be used in arenas or battlegrounds. Previously, Ferals did not learn or have access to nature swiftness. 5.4 revert. So it's going back to how it was on launch. I don't know what the hell this is. Is it nature swiftness like when you make your next spell instant? So I guess that's a buff for Feral, but I don't know how. I don't know anything about Feral Druids and Mop. Guardian Druids. Maul's rage cost has been lowered to 20 from 30. Warriors of Draenor pre-patch change. So they're actually making the Maul rage cost be the same as it was in Warriors of Draenor pre-patch. So this is a big buff to Bear Druid. Okay, cool. From what I heard, you don't really press Maul that much in MOP. At least that's what I heard. I don't know if it's true. So maybe this will now change that and you press a lot more Mauls. But nice. Good for Bear Druid. Restoration Druid. Naturalist increase to healing has been raised from 15% to 10%. That's like a 5% healing buff to Resto Druid. Also brand new, not like a reversion. Alright, that's Druid. Hunter.
Bro, I would let Belder feel
Yo,
part of my
LMG with a
face,
5
bro. I don't give
gifted.
a fuck.
Yo.
Is my girlfriend still home? She left. Alright.
Thank God.
Hello, Joker. Just wanted to say that you are an amazing streamer and I love you. We all love you. Yo, are you drunk? Cheers, though. I do appreciate the 5 gifted, LMGD. Thank you. Alright. What a nice guy. So Hunter, I'm gonna read this really fast, but it looks like it got reverted. Hunter, General. The Spore Bat Pet's energy spores can now only be activated when inside of a BG. Oh yeah, so they were gonna make Hunters not have a 5% spell haste path in order to make Hunter class stacking not as big, but they have reverted it already. So Hunters somehow are not getting any adjustments at all. That is crazy. Hunters are OP. I don't know what the hell the devs are smoking here. Nerf Hunters, bro. I'm playing a Hunter, by the way. I'm Nerf Hunters. That's crazy. Anyway, so I guess they don't want to nerf DPS classes. Maybe that's what they're doing here. To be fair, Hunters at the end of MOP are not really that crazy. They just probably start really OP with the 5.48 changes. So yeah, Hunters is gonna be good. If you're playing a Hunter, don't change anything. Mage. Fire. Combustion percentage of ignite stick damage per second raised to 50% from 20%. 5.4 revert. So this is the OG 5.0 version of combustion. Maybe people play Fire Mage now. I don't know. That's the only mage change. Monk. Oh shit, there's a lot of things with Monk here. Holy shit. Okay. Monk Mistweaver. Teachings of...
Yeah, boy.
I'll say I got a donut.
Palanim donated €3. Patch notes. Blue posts now have a chance of 80%, was 30% to proc yapping. Yapping duration is increased by 250% and can hit critical.
That is... I'm not even talking that much. I'm just reading through this, guys, okay? Listen, we're almost done, right? We only have... all of this to read. Yeah. So, Monk. Mistweaver. Teachings of the Monastery Crackling Jade Lightning damage bonus has been lowered to 25% from 100%. That is a crazy nerf to the damage of Crackling Jade Lightning. It's a new thing as well. Mana Tea's mana return per charge increased to 5% from 4%. That's a big buff to how
Bro,
much
I
mana
would
you
let
get.
Belder feel part of my
Yo,
face,
Random
bro. I
Fear,
don't
thank
give
you
a
for the
fuck.
5 gifted, man.
Is my girlfriend still home? She left. All right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Surging Miss cost lowered by 13%, moving its cost to 7%. So this is a 13% mana cost reduction on Surging Miss, also new. Rushing Jade Wind will now be cancelled on the Mistweaver Monk when they enter stance of the Wise Serpent. I'm not reading all of this here, but I'm glad that happened to you, Mistweavers, or I'm sorry that happened to you. Jab cost lowered by 25%. Partial 5.2 reversion, okay. Enveloping Miss Healing raised by 48%. 5.1 reversion. Eminence Healing raised by 68%. 5.2 and 6.02 change. Eminence benefits from the healing bonus granted by Stance of the White Serpent, so this translates to a 50% of damage dealt to healing. Also, Stance of the White Serpent is like when you use that, you do damage and then you heal because you do damage, like Atonement. But then if you're not in that stance, you just heal people normally. I think that's what it is. Yeah, I've never played Mistweaver at all. Like, I'm trying to understand what that means. Revival's healing raised by 43%. Wow. Dude, Monk is getting some crazy buffs. Glyph of Targeted Expulsion retains its original effects in PvP, but morphs to have the old effects from the previously removed Glyph of Uplift while outside of PvP instances. While not in PvP instance, Glyph of Target Expulsion changes Uplift to no longer cost Chi, but instead cost 10% of base mana. I think that's a buff, because... yeah, using mana sort of Chi is gonna make it more spammable, right? Alright. I think Mistweaver overall got some really big buffs. That's good, because I don't think they were gonna be played at all. From what I heard, like, it's like... Mistweaver Monk, I mean, you can play it, it's just... yeah, you know, it was like the worst healer or some shit. Maybe Holy Pally was worse, I don't know. Windwalker, okay. No changes to Brewmaster Monk. Crazy. Mastery. Bottled Fury changed to increasing the damage of your Tiger's Eye Brew by 0.2% per mastery. Was Mastery gives a chance to gain an additional charge of Tiger's Brew when you gain a charge of Tiger's Brew. So now Instead of having a chance to get more Tiger's Brew charges, your mastery gives you more damage increase per Tiger's Brew charge. I think I've heard people say that they want this to be the way it is now, so this is good. So this is basically how it worked before 5.4, but in 5.4 they changed how the mastery works, and now we're getting the original mastery. Great. Tiger's Eye Brew starts with 3.5% damage per stack, plus 1.6% from mastery, was 6% per stack, unaffected by mastery. 5.4 reversion and new. Tiger's Eye Brew gains a charge after spending 3 chi instead of 4 chi. That's also a 5.0 OG one. So this basically, Windwalker is going to work like it worked in 5.0. Reading all of this here. Alright, cool. Paladin Holy. Eternal Flames periodic healing lowered by 28%. 5.4 reversion. Eternal Flames periodic can activate Illuminating Healing. No idea what that is. Illuminated Healing's base value has been raised to 12%. Guys, is that a buff or a nerf? Because they're lowering the healing, but they're saying this can affect this. Is that good or bad? It's a big buff. Is it? Big buff. Insane buff. Alright, nice. Because Holy Paladin was not in a good spot, so... Holy Paladins, W. Nice. Protection, Paladin. The damage reduction from Sanctuary has been raised to 20% from 15%. That's just a buff to how... Well, I guess you take less damage now. It's a buff. The shielding on Sacred Shield has been raised by 43%. 5.4 reversion. Nice. So Pro Paladin got some buffs. Retribution Paladin. This is a big one. Divine Storm, Crusader Strike, Judgment, Hammer of the Righteous, Hammer of Wrath, and Exorcism have all their damage increased by 10%. Dude. Templar's Verdict damage raised by 20%. So these are not mop reverse. These are just new. So this wasn't an original mop, and this wasn't in Warsaw Drain or pre-patch. So Reds are just getting a bonus to them because they just suck, I guess. W Red Paladins. That's really nice. Really nice. Yeah, it's not even 5.4 reverse like other classes. They just straight up got buffed. It's kind of like balanced through it, I guess. Priest. Talents. Divine Star and Halo now obey AoE cap rules. 20 targets for damage, 6 targets for healing before they start splitting the effects total numbers. It's a 5.4 reversion, and issue originally moved to 6.0 pre-patch. The maximum times Cascade can bounce has been lowered to 3 from 4. That's a reversion. So these are some nerfs to Priest. Discipline. Divine Aegis lowered to 80% of the heal's value from 100%. That's a huge nerf. 20% nerf to Divine Aegis. Tier 14 set bonus. Cooldown lowered to 1 second from 3 seconds. Also a big nerf. Atonement Healing. From damage lowered to 70% from 90%. Wars of Drain or pre-patch. Another nerf to Atonement. Divine Star for Discipline Priest has had its healing lowered by 25%. 6.0 to change and 5.1 partial revert. That's also another nerf. Spirit Shell's active duration raised by 50% to 15 seconds from 10 seconds. That's a buff. Okay, I think this priest got nerfed, guys. They have one buff here. 50% buff, but then everything else is like a 20% nerf. I mean, it makes sense, right? This priest is way too good in Mists of Pandaria. Like, I remember playing back then. We would only have this priest in the raid healing. They were so broken. Like, you would have like 3 or 4 disc priests. Yeah, I think this is good. It sucks to like nerf classes, I guess, but if it's like that OP, it is what it is, right? Like, it's just too good. It's too good. Not to mention, like, you do a lot of damage as a disc priest. You do a lot of healing. And you absorb damage. It's literally it's insane. And you bring barrier. Like, you prevent damage, which is the best form of healing. No one beats you at it. You also did a lot of healing. You also did damage. And you had a cooldown that is very useful for the raid. So yeah, I don't think people are not gonna play Disc Priest because of this. You probably just play less Disc Priest. Maybe only bring 1 now instead of bringing 3 or 4. So that's I think that's like a needed change. It sucks to get nerfed though, but this piece was like ridiculously OP. Yeah, I don't know. It might still be the best healer because if you're preventing damage, other healers can't heal. That's just the way it works. So I wouldn't be surprised if #1 healer stays this as the raid progresses and people just get better at not taking as much damage. So you can't really snipe any heals because this just absorbs everything. And they have buffed Spiritual's active duration here, so that is maybe something that will help a bit, right, in the long term. But yeah, definitely a nerf to this priest, like 20% or something here, like at least. Crazy. Shadow Priest. Generating shadow orbs passively while outside of combat arenas and battlegrounds. I think they already have mentioned this, right? This is not... this was already discussed. Shadow form's damage increase has been raised to 30% from 25%. 5%-ish buff to Shadow Priest. Is that enough? I don't know. It's something. Yeah, it's something. A little buff for our Shadow Priest boys. Nice to see. Rogue. General. Sinister Strike's energy cost lowered to 40 from 50. 5.4 revert and buff. Sinister Strike's weapon damage lowered to 192% from 240. Partial
Palanim
5.4 revert
donated
and
3
nerf.
euros. Hey, it's me, Palanim from the future. The Warlords of Draenor was released yesterday and little bro is still reading the patch notes. Mop was fun too.
Bro, I'm almost done with the patch notes. Relax. So it looks like they are lowering the energy cost of Sinister Strike, but then lowering the damage. I think that's a buff. Because if you do more Sinister Strikes, you get more combo points, which means you can use more finishers. Assassination Rogue. The damage increase from Assassin's Resolve raised to 25% from 20%. It's like a slight buff to Assassination Rogue. Combat. Added a counter for Bandit's Guile that will track your Sinister Strikes and Revealing Strikes, showing how close you are to gaining insight. Huh. Okay, cool. I have no idea what that means. Shaman. General. Healing Rain lowered by 25%. Bro, that's an insane nerf. To Healing Rain. Talents. Healing Rain's maximum duration through conductivity lowered to 30 seconds from 40 seconds. Ancestral Guidance healing and damage conversion lowered to 20%. Was 60% for healing and 40% for damage. Ooh, this is a big shaman nerf right here. Elemental Shaman. Lightning Bolt damage raised by 10%. Yo, Gunina, 10% more Lightning Bolt damage? Nice. Alright, good. I got buffed. Enhancement Shaman. Storm Strike weapon damage raised to 450% from 380%. That's a reversion, so that's a buff to Enhancement Shaman as well. Restoration Shaman. Chain heals fall off per target lowered to 20% from 0%. So that's another nerf to Resto Shaman. It's a 5.4 partial reversion. Riptide's mana cost increased by 50%. Damn, there's a lot of nerfs to Resto Shaman. I guess they're really good at MUP. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nerfs to Resto here. I mean, is Healing Rain getting lowered by 25% actually a nerf? Because isn't that mostly gonna overheal anyway? So like now, you just get another tick. I don't think it fucking matters. Yeah, I don't think people realize that doesn't do anything. This would only matter if, like, let's say the raid is actually dying. Like, there's so much damage, you're dying. And all that healing from Healing Rain is actually going through and keeping people alive. That's a massive nerf. But if you're like, you put the Healing Rain, everyone's full HP, and then you take a bit of damage, you go back up, it doesn't matter at that point, right? You just... That's only really good when there's massive raid damage, which I'm sure there's fights like that in MUP though. I think MUP is an expansion where there's a lot of raid damage, right guys? Compared to previous expansions. It starts to become more like retail where, like, you know, you gotta heal. You gotta heal, right? It's all Resto Shaman's healing. Is that your #1 healing spell, Healing Rain? Like, I don't have to explain this to you. Like, Healing Rain doing 25% less healing is on a 25% nerf. But it's very hard to explain this to people who are not smart. No offense. In reality, that will probably translate to, I don't know, maybe 10%. Like, because of overhealing. Anyway, right? Like, it's like, imagine they nerfed Arcane Mage healing in Sod. You wouldn't, like, even if they nerfed it by 50%, you wouldn't do 50% less healing. Because you were overhealing so much anyway, that you probably will only do, like, a bit less healing. Math. It's not about math, it's about reality. If you're smart, you know what I'm saying. If you're not, maybe one day. Okay? But yeah, that's still a nerf, though. It's a nerf. Now, this right here, this could be a bigger nerf. But apparently your heating rain is 40 seconds long, and now it's 30 seconds, so you have to apply it more often. So you're pressing heating rain sort of another spell more often. That sucks. And this right here, this is interesting. Ancestral Guidance healing and damage conversion lowered to 20% from 60. Is this like the ability you press, and then you do a bunch of healing if you do damage, and then you do a bunch of damage if you heal? Because this was in SOD, and I think this is also in retail. Yeah. So that's like a cooldown, right? Like, even as a Ellie Shaman, I could use this and heal the raid. So I got nerfed as well by this getting nerfed. Alright. But yeah, I think Resto Shamans must have been insane if they're getting these changes, right? They're probably gonna still be pretty good. So it looks like they have cracked down only on 2 specs so far. Resto Shaman, Discipline Priest. And that's all I've heard about people. Is like, these are the only healers you're gonna play. Most raids were running 3 Disc Priests and 2 Resto Shamans. So now the meta is gonna be more variable, right? Because I feel like the way it's gonna be is like, if you don't have a Disc Priest, you just can't raid. Maybe even Resto Shaman. Like, now you can be more flexible with the healers, right? I think it's good. Like, the healing meta, I guess, was the most imbalanced one, right? From what I've seen. Like, DPS is also imbalanced, but healing was way more imbalanced. Because, like, Discipline Priest is ridiculously overpowered. Like, I mean, you guys seen these nerfs? They're probably gonna still be the best healer. Because they just absorb all the damage. You're gonna snipe your heals with that. Yeah, this right here, I think it's like very big. Sorry, very small. This healing ray nerf. Yeah, I don't think this matters that much. Do you do a lot of healing with chain heal, guys, in MUP? It says chain heals fall off per target, lower to 20% from 0%. So, like, every time it bounces, it does less healing. Healing rate is 22.22% nerf calculated. Bro, you can't sim healing. It doesn't work like that. You can't just be like, okay, let's assume the whole raid doesn't have any health and I can heal infinitely. That's not how it works. In reality, you drop your healing rain, it puts everyone back to full HP, and then it doesn't do anything. Because everyone's full health. So it being lowered by 25% just means now it takes an extra second for people to get full HP. And then it doesn't do anything again. It's only really good if the whole raid's not full HP all the time. Yeah. So if there's a boss like that, the whole raid's never full health, that's a big nerf. But yeah, I don't know how much that's gonna happen, to be honest. Alright, let's see Warlock. Affliction Warlocks. Malefic Grasp damage raised by 50%. What? Why are we buffing Affliction Warlocks by 50%? What is this? Are you crazy? The damage of your Malefic Grasp causes your other dots to deal raised to 50% from 30%. Another buff. Drain Soul damage increased by 50%. The damage of your Drain Soul causes your other dots to deal... What the fuck? These are crazy Affliction buffs. Which apparently... Wait. So, in the original MOP, when Siege of Orgrimmar came out, they nerfed Affliction Warlock. And it was still by far the best spec in the game. How broken was Affliction Warlock, man? I didn't even know they nerfed it. This is crazy. Wait, isn't Afflic gonna be too OP now? These look like crazy buffs, guys. I don't know. This is a little concerning here. Although I knew that, like, Destro is better than Afflic in the beginning, but these are such big buffs. I'm not sure anymore, man. They will definitely, like, revert all of these when Siege of Orgrimmar comes out. Maybe even Throne of Thunder. Or they will revert half of that damage in Throne of Thunder. Demonology. Wild Imp damage increased by 43%. Wow. The number of imps summoned by Glyph of Imp Swarm increased to 5 from 4. Also huge. Hellfire and Immolation aura damage increased by 25%. Chaos Wave. I don't know what the hell Chaos Wave is. Damage increased by 50%. Yo, Demo and Athlete Warlock just got the biggest buffs of any class. Except maybe a Mistweaver. Holy shit. Warlocks are gonna be the most played class, I think. If it wasn't already. Glyphs. Glyph of Eternal Resolve retains its original effects in PvP, but morphs to have the old effects from the previously removed Glyph of Everlasting Affliction while outside of PvP instances. While not in PvP instance, Glyph of Eternal Resolve now increases the duration of the damage over time spells associated with the old Glyph of Everlasting Affliction by 50%, but decreases their damage by 20%. Okay, I'm gonna pretend I knew what that said. Warrior. General. Absorbing damage or taking damage while in Berserker stance now grants the warrior rage. Previously only taking damage to your health bar granted rage. So that's a buff. Fury. Crazed Berserker auto attack damage increase has been raised to 15% from 10%. Crazed Berserker offhand damage increase has been raised to 30% from 25%. The duration of Berserker Rage and Enrage has been raised by 33% to 8 seconds from 6 seconds. So Fury Warrior buffs. I don't know if Fury Warrior is good or bad in Kata, but there you go. Fury Warrior buffs right there. And this is also like a buff to Arms Warrior. But there it is. So in summary, Boomkin's got a buff. Feral's got a buff, I think. Guardian's got a buff. Restoration Druid got a buff. So basically Druids got buffed. Hunters, no changes to Hunters at all. They are probably still the best DPS to play early on, potentially. So if you're a Hunter, everything is good. Fire Mage got buffed a lot, I think. I mean, Combustion from 20 to 50% sounds amazing to me, so maybe Fire Mage will be viable now. Mistweaver got a lot of buffs. They are eating the best from all the healers, I think. Crazy Mistweaver buffs. Windwalker has the old mastery that a lot of people were asking for, so that's great. Windwalker. Brewmaster, no changes. DK, no changes at all. Nothing to DK. But DK are really good. Yeah, DK is like the best tank early on. And one of the best DPS, so, you know, I don't think DK needed buffs. Yeah, they're probably like happy they didn't get mentioned here, to be honest. Like Hunters, you know. Holy Paladin got buffed. Protection Paladin got buffed. Red Paladin got buffed a lot. Red Paladins are really happy, I bet. So Paladin is back on the menu. You don't have to not play Paladin. Reds should be fine. This seems like a significant buff to me. Massive nerfs to Discipline Priest. But probably much needed. Shadow Priest got buffed. Rogues got buffed or nerfed. I don't know. Rogues, question mark. Yeah, I'm not sure actually. Shaman got nerfed a lot when it comes to healing. DPS Shaman got nerfed in utility, but then got buffed in damage. So Eddie got a 10% Lightning Bolt buff, and Hazard got a Storm Strike damage buff. Athlete Warlock and Demo got some insane buffs. Like I don't even know what the hell's happening here. This seems ridiculous to me. But all these buffs to Warlock are basically Warlock going back to the 5.0 state. So if you played the original Mists of Pandaria, this is what Warlock was like in 5.0. These are all just reversions from 5.4 to 5.0. So there's nothing new added to Warlock here. There's just literally them becoming 5.0 version for the most part. Maybe there's more things that they didn't revert, right? And then Warrior Fury got buffed, and so did Arms a bit with the Berserker Sense change. But that's the whole shebang. Guys, do not look at this and think it's not gonna change, because as you can see, Hunter's already gotten a nerf reverted. This is gonna be something that I bet Blizzard will be monitoring based on the raid testing that's starting tonight. Right? They're gonna see how the pluses perform. They're gonna watch streams and look at the damage meter and be like, oh, okay, so maybe we buffed that one too much. Oh, maybe we nerfed this healer too much. And just adjusted. But now we're playing a fucking game. This is what a game is like. This is a real video game where there are changes made. Not some boring bullshit game where you're playing on the final patch with 0 class changes like no other version of WoW has ever been. I'm really happy about this. Now I feel like I'm playing an MMO. I can get excited about MOP. Because I know that there might be things changing. I don't have to be like, oh, my class is always gonna suck or always gonna be OP. Like, no, it's a dynamic thing now. Like it was in 2012. Like it was back then. That's exactly what I wanted. It really sucks for Cataclysm that this doesn't happen to them. And I think it's because of Seasonal Discovery, bro. Cata could have had this treatment. Cata could have been saved from this disaster of class tuning. You know. Yeah, 07 to Cata. But, you know, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. Fucking Warlocks, man. Holy shit. We gotta play a Warlock now. Looking at those. I didn't know Warlock got nerfed that much. How much damage would Warlocks have done, guys? If they didn't make those nerfs? Like, can you imagine? Like, because in the end of MOB, Warlocks were doing millions of DPS on AoE. They were unrivaled. And that's with those nerfs happening in 5.4. That's wild. They would have done like 4 million DPS or something, dude. Oh my goodness. Will Blizzard do this for TBC anniversary? I don't think so. The anniversary crowd is a lot more no changes than I think the Kata mob crowd. I doubt that's gonna happen. I want that to happen, but I doubt it. I doubt it. That's like a boulder that you gotta push up a hill. That's like this vertical.